Greetings, Nick Bowcott with Sweetwater here in Chi-Town, the Windy City, and I'm with this fine man here, the one, the only John Petrucci. He's been with Ernie Ball Music Man for a staggering, coming on 18 years as a signature artist with guitars. In fact, we've just been discussing how many signature models he has, and we're not quite sure. Is it 10, is it 11, is it 12? 11's a good number because it's Spinal Tap, but you don't want to hear me talk, you want to hear this guy explain the difference and the relationship and all that good stuff. So over to you, John.
Yes, I will. Well, thanks for having me, and it's always great working with Sweetwater and seeing you. We were talking about the first time we saw each other on Long Island.
Yeah, in a Babies R Us.
Right, exactly.
We'd seen each other at festivals, never talked, then we went to Babies R Us and met each other. There you go.
Long time.
That's rock and roll.
Yes, it is rock and roll. But I've been with the Ernie Ball Music Man family for 18 years now. And as you said, we have developed a line of guitars at this point, which is beyond incredible to me. How much great work we've done together. And it's such an honor for me to be part of their family and to actually be able to work on instruments that other people can get to enjoy.
Now, how does the evolution occur? Is it as you get older and allegedly wiser, or hopefully wiser?
Maybe.
Or just your tastes or your vision changes? Because
Right.
the models complement each other. They don't replace each other. They just
Right.
complement, which is rare.
Yeah, it is really rare. And it's one of those things that they do that's unlike any other companies where they keep the line active. And so the changes come out of a couple of different a couple of different reasons. One of them is I might be playing and realize, during a show that, really I should have changed this because of whatever reason. I can get into that when I show you the guitars.
Please.
So some of them are very practical and pragmatic changes. Some of them, though, are changes that are out of curiosity and experimentation. Like, okay, we did this. Now, what would it sound like if we used these woods, or what would it feel like if we changed the radius, or
Right.
What would happen if we put a preamp in the guitar and changed the pickup? So it's all out of this sort of adventure to try to make the guitar different, cooler, better, easier to play, without taking away anything from the models, the previous models. So it's kind of out of those two things.
Yeah, so they complement rather than replace.
They do complement, yeah. And what's cool is that, when I'm in the studio or on tour, and, I can take a selection of the different models and play them during the show and be equally as comfortable playing any of them. They all have something different to offer. It's kind of like, you're an artist and you get to pick different colors,
cool.
or you're a cook and you have this big spice rack and you can pull things out, and everything complements the end game, which is you're trying to make music and perform and be creative.
And the great thing is, you're the chef of the entire menu.
I'm the chef, but I have a massive team of sous chefs. I might even be the sous chef.
Or the dishwasher.
Oh,
no, that's
man.
probably me.
I might be the dishwasher.
Yeah, because the other great thing about the evolution, before we get into the actual guitars, and he will hold each one in person as we talk about it, so it's not just behind us, but you will see it as well, which is cool, because some of you I know own them or will own them after this video. The DiMarzio situation has evolved too, and that's fascinating.
Absolutely.
So they kind of run in parallel.
They do, and I've known Larry for so long, and Steve Blucher for even before I got involved with Sterling and his family. I had been using DiMarzio for 10 years prior to that, so I basically never used any other pickup than DiMarzio. And what's interesting about working with them together with Ernie Ball Music Man is that when we make changes to the guitar, we simultaneously have a conversation with Larry, with Steve, like, okay, we're changing the wood, we're going for this type of sound, and then we make tweaks to the pickup.
Cool.
Yeah, and it kind of goes along so that we're not just slapping the same pickup in. Incidentally, they probably all would sound good if you changed pickups and different guitars, but we try to kind of design them for the instruments that are being built and the wood and what I'm going for. And I love that. I love that we can make those kind of sonic changes and implement them into the line. It's amazing.
It kind of goes back to your restaurant analogy.
Mm-hmm.
So you change the gravy, you change the side dishes to complement the meat or whatever, the fish, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Tofu.
Yeah, it's all this sort of collective thing where everything complements each other, and it brings out something really great in the end.
Well, cool. As you can see from hopefully the panoramic view you have here, there's a bunch of guitars here.
Yeah.
So we will cut, he will pick one up, talk about it, we'll do it in chronological order, and let's find out some more of the history in detail.
All right.
So take it away. Explain this guitar, why it came to be, and what
Sure.
makes it special.
Yeah. Well, first of all, this was the first model that we designed together. I worked with Sterling and Dudley Gimple, the head engineer there. And, I was coming from a company where I was playing a super strat style guitar with 2 humbuckers,
Right.
and a whammy bar. So we started there.
Gotcha.
And, obviously made it into something that was more representative of Ernie Ball Music Man and their design platform. But some of the things we did with the very first one stuck on all the models. And so
Right.
this might be a good opportunity to kind of
This is the DNA that goes through.
Yeah, the
line,
DNA. First of all the guitars come in a 6-string and a 7-string version, because I've been playing 7-string since we did the Awake album in 2004. So I think that's really great. So you can get 6 or 7 in either one. And I play a lot of 7-string. One of the things about the very first one that stuck, actually I shouldn't say one of the things, many of the things I'll point out. So first of all, the concept of this ergonomic sweep over here.
Right, okay.
If you look at the way the controls are laid out, if we were to draw a line, you'd see this kind of thing happening. So, my whole thing is like performance based. It's like a
Right.
race car driver. Like you want like the least amount of resistance, or Sterling and I have talked about like skiers or golfers.
Efficiency of motion. I
Yeah,
guess,
totally. So this is one of those things. So like when you play guitar, your arm has this kind of fulcrum. It doesn't go straight up and down. It swings like this. So I wanted to make it so everything from, where the upper toggle is to where this toggle switches and the angle of it, it's not straight up and down, it's angled.
Right,
and
right,
where the
right.
volume, tone, and piezo control are, follow the arc of your hand. So when you're playing, you don't have to like think about it or move awkwardly. It's just there. Everything is like
Wow.
right in a row.
So you learn something new every day.
You
I
learn
never-
something new every day.
I never knew that. That's actually really smart.
It's really cool. So, and it comes out of, and this is why I think that a lot of guitar players relate to these guitars, because I'm such a normal, like average guitar player guy. I'm telling you, I am, and it's like
That's like David Beckham saying he's ugly. I'm sorry, but carry on.
my whole thing is so normal. Like when I talk to other guitar players, they're like, "Duh, why didn't anybody ever do that?" I'm like,
I just did that with that arc. Actually, to be honest with you, it's like that's completely.
So your
logical.
reaction is
Yeah.
like, you're like, wow, I never thought of that. Why didn't I ever? It's like when I don't know, I can't think of it. Like you hear something for the first time, you're like, has that never been done before? Why didn't anybody think of that? Like if I ever played a guitar, like a Strat style, where the volume control is like right up against the,
Then you're always knocking it.
and I'm playing the guitar and hitting the volume's going down. I'm like, who would do that? So we always had right away, the volume control is way down here.
You know what's funny, actually? I just did a performance of something that was funk, and I actually had to duct tape the volume control because I
There
kept
you go.
knocking it off.
So another example
there
of
you
that.
go.
There you go.
I don't have to duct tape
You don't have to duct tape that. So on all of my models, you're going to see that same layout of controls, because once we did that, it stuck. It was like, all right, we don't need to change that. That's awesome. Another thing that stuck from the beginning is the type of volume and tone knobs that we use. So we were looking for something that would look really cool and just kind of have this badass vibe to it. So the shiny black, but performance-wise, again, how many times have you played your hands sweating and you slips, and you can't like turn the volume up or down. So we put these sort of rubber things that have edges.
Milled. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's just all performance-based. Your hand will never like slip off of that. So you're able to really quickly with one finger, control that. And that's something, maybe there were other instruments that had that before, but that was something that, when we talked about it and decided to make that part of the feature, I was like, that's it.
That's
Perfect.
pretty.
And
That's smart again.
Yeah.
Anyone I've seen, like, if you've seen Nuno's guitar when he has the bolt sticking out of it, so you just
right.
But you can hurt yourself with
You
that.
can hurt yourself.
And I have.
And that's another thing too. I have hurt myself on guitars with sharp corners and things. And on the Majesty, when we get to that, you'll see that even more. But like with the bridge that we designed, all the saddles have rounded edges.
Yes.
And the cover has rounded edges, and we worked on that for a while. Because you ever play a guitar, you put your hand down and like you cut your hand, you're like, again, I'm like, why would anybody design that? So those are the types of like practical, when I say normal, those are things when you talk to another guitar player, they're like, man, this feels so good. Why didn't anybody ever do that? So that's what I mean by that kind of attitude. Yeah. And all the guitars have always had 2 humbuckers with no mounting rings. That's based on just my style of playing.
Right.
Because I usually wrap my pinky around the pickup to get some kind of control.
Now, do you find that there's a tonal advantage to like direct screwing or bolting to the body?
I feel like it's more stable. Like the guitar doesn't like feed back as much. And,
and there's maybe more resonance in some weird way.
I think it is. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the science is, but it seems like if you're just mounting those things right into the wood,
as opposed to floating on a couple of screws and springs. Yeah, no, I would agree with that.
It's kind of like less is more in that case. You know, there's less variables to get in the way.
Cool.
And then also with all the guitars, and the only exception is the 16, which has a Floyd, but we have this proprietary whammy that we came up with that's unbelievable. Just, you know, I came from a Floyd Rose guitar, so I wanted that same type of feel, but without the locking nut. So we did locking tuners.
Right.
And, you know, we were able to put the piezo elements in here and everything, so it carries over.
And with the exception of the Floyd, that's also a common feature of the piezo, which is great. Yeah. Because that's really, you don't realize how useful it is until you actually, wow, that's cool.
Yeah. Again, you know, all the guitars have that feature, and it comes out of practicality. You know, I'm a little selfish where things are like, I do things because of the situation that I'm in musically. So in Dream Theater, when I record, I do one of 2 things with acoustic. Either I layer the acoustic behind like a clean part, so that it gives this, you know, nice dimension, like the intro "Pull Me Under" or something like that, or I break out in the middle of an electric song into an acoustic section, the way that Yes or Rush would for the little section, and then back. So I needed a way to get back and forth really quickly, and the piezo system in the guitar is just unreal. And we worked on that for a long time, getting the tone right, and again getting the position of this switch, so where you can have magnetic, piezo, and magnetic, or just piezo, and really quickly switch between each. So very, very practical. And then when you play that style of music, you know, you can go back and forth really seamlessly.
The other cool thing, this is kind of obsequious because you're here and you're bigger than me, but
do I have to beat you up?
Again, like you did in Toys R Us. No, this guitar is, even though it's got 2 switches, it's so logical. I didn't have to look at a manual. I sussed it out within 3 minutes.
Cool.
And once again, that's down to it's guitarist friendly.
Right, exactly. It's all meant for, you know. I guess my philosophy is that when you're performing, when you're on stage, and there's people in front of you watching who are expecting something, there's lights going, there's, you know, the sound, depending on the night, it could vary or whatever. Everything is magnified.
Yeah.
Anything that you didn't practice enough, or anything about, you know, your shoe is a little too tight, or, you know, anything on the guitar, you know, this fret, like everything is magnified, and time slows down. So my whole thing is like, I want to take the guitar out of the equation, just so the music will flow without sounding too hippie. Yeah, man. So all these sort of practical things are for that reason. So the goal is that the guitar disappears and you can get into this creative state.
So you can actually concentrate on making music, not on switching.
Not worrying about like just technical stuff that can weigh you down.
The other thing I'll have to say, because I'm a lefty, and that's my excuse for sucking, but this angle, it's I hate to say it, perfect.
Oh,
Once again, it sounds obsequious, but you go, well, that looks extreme, and then you play it and go, that's why it is the way it is, because it feels right.
Well, let's talk about that.
Yeah, and it kind of lines up with this whole logic as well.
It does, and this took us a while. So the story behind this here. So most guitars, where you rest your arm, actually, the wood kind of comes out and curves back.
Yes.
And we did end up doing that on a lot of my other models. The very first 6 and then the 16 are the only ones that have this thing. So the idea was that my style is very like right-hand power based, right? So when I play, I like to kind of have my arm locked in a position so that I can be as efficient with the picking.
So I take it, so your picking is done from the wrist as opposed to the...
It's done from the wrist, and the power comes from my elbow and this muscle right here.
Gotcha, okay.
That's why you have to do hammer curls to get that
there you go.
See that?
Hammer curls.
Right,
Tip number 1.
Right, but the motion is kind of restricted to the wrist. It's like a weird thing where energy comes from there.
It's transmitted.
But the wrist is actually loose. So the idea, Sterling came up with this idea, and that's what I love about working with Sterling. He's so hands-on. He's right there. We're at the factory. I mean, the first guitar, we were carving necks. Dudley would take it off, put it in the vise, carve a little more. We'd look at it.
Cool.
So cool. But the idea was, he was thinking, well, maybe we should take wood away and make like a pocket. And I thought it was a brilliant idea. So the idea was, with this radius here, how to center it.
Right.
Where should the radius be? Should it be like that or that? And so what he did, this famous story within the Ernie Ball family, he put like a hand lotion on my arm.
Only Sterling.
And then he said, play the guitar. So I sat down, played the guitar, and the mark that the lotion left was the center of the radius for the cutout.
Wow, science and hand lotion. Who would have thunk it? Yeah, that's really smart, actually. But he's a smart dude.
He's very smart.
And he's funny.
He's very smart, and he's a player, and he gets, and he loves music, and he loves the art of guitar building. So all those things combined enable us to do so many cool things. So, when the guitar first came out, it kind of looked a little bit weird, like, oh, somebody took a chunk out of the guitar. But it's one of those practical things that I think it's really
like I said, my initial reaction was and then wow.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. And the first model was all basswood.
Right.
That was the guitar I was coming from previously. So that was the sound I was looking for. So it's basswood only with a maple neck and rosewood fretboard.
Right.
And it's a 15-inch radius on this guitar. Locking tuners. So no locking nut here, which was a big change for me.
Right, after Floyd.
Yeah, but the guitar I think had a way better tone, and just sounded better to me. And the 2 DiMarzio humbuckers, and that's always been the configuration.
Now these are pre your signature per se, or pre-available to the public, aren't these two?
The ones that are in here now are my signature. So we went back and put them in. But when we first made the guitar, we had the DiMarzio pickups that were matched for this guitar, but they weren't available outside of the instrument.
If I remember correctly, weren't they based on the Air Norton or something?
Yeah, they were based on the Steve Special and the Air Norton.
Cool.
Yeah. Again, working with Steve Blucher forever and Larry, just love all these guys. It's like one big family.
Yeah, Steve's one of those guys when you can have a phone. I used to be on the road and I'd call him from doing a clinic saying, I've got this new guitar, I need more of this. And I'd make a noise down the phone. You go, okay.
Totally.
Where are you going to be in 4 days? And he'd send me a pickup and he'd nail it every time.
We did that with the 16 when we came up with the 16, and we put a Floyd Rose on it just to do it, like to be like, okay, none of the guitars in my line have a Floyd. Let's do one with it. And it was, again, a basswood body, and Steve was like, thinking about it, and he came up with these pickups. We were playing Radio City Music Hall. He came to the thing. I plugged in the guitar. I was like, are you kidding me? This is perfect. One conversation.
Yep, that's all it takes with him. Cool.
Yeah.
So that's guitar number 1. So this is the one that started it all, basically.
Yeah, this is the one that started it all. So again, when we talk about the other guitars, we can focus on other things because this thing never changed.
Gotcha. The other thing that struck me is just how, this might sound like a stupid thing to say, but just how remarkably straight the strings are, because I didn't have any tuning problems, as I would fear, because I like Floyd's because of the lock here, because I I'm notoriously out of tune anyway. But these, with the locking machine heads and just there's no angle apart from that one angle, so there's minimal friction. It really holds well.
It does, and there's a lot of the mojo and technical things that go into building the guitar that, I'm not very well versed in.
Right.
And some of those things that Ernie Ball does that they just do.
Yeah.
That make it, the tuning so stable, the angles and things like that. It just, it blows my mind. Just it's something I experienced a long time ago before I played Ernie Ball guitars. I picked up in a store. It's like an Eddie Van Halen one, and I was like, my God, this is like ridiculous. I mean, it looks beautiful, plays amazing, and you feel like you're holding like a piece of artwork.
Right.
And so that's the consistency that's in the whole line.
Hence the reason you're still there 18 years later.
Absolutely. It's crazy.
Right, let's move on to another guitar.
Yeah.
Right, so here we are with we're jumping a little bit in the evolution, but I'll let John explain.
Sure. So shortly after we did the original model, we talked about making a body style change, slight body style change, kind of evening out some of the lower part of the guitar and doing a more traditional curve here, just all based off of like wanting to see what it would feel like, and also wanting to get a little bit more surface for my arm over here, just a little more to kind of lock in. So we started doing the BFR model, which stands for Ball Family Reserve.
Right.
So we changed the body style a little bit, still a bolt-on neck, and then we started using, instead of just a basswood body, a combination of tone woods. So that's when they started the tone block, mahogany tone block.
Now, where is the mahogany tone block?
So it's in this area here.
That makes sense. Yeah. So it's like the middle stripe, almost like a neck through, but it's not.
Yeah, exactly. So the bridge and the pickups are mounted directly to that.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's like inserted within.
That makes sense.
And so those guitars, I think we might have started with like the mahogany tone block, basswood, and then we put a maple top. So it was a more like a deeper, richer kind of sound.
Did you ever do a comparison of before and after the tone block was put in? Was it a matter of interest or not? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to do, but that would.
I bet you'd definitely hear it.
You'd probably feel it too.
I can tell you right now. Yeah, exactly. So basically, once we started that BFR thing, and in doing the maple tops, then we can do a whole bunch of different types of finishes that were really beautiful.
That's really eye-catching.
Yeah,
gorgeous.
This quilt is gorgeous, but we and this is kind of a matte finish.
Right.
The BFRs had like a high gloss thing, and we did some. You can just go to town on colors, finishes. The quilt of the maple and everything. They just look so gorgeous. So very different looking than the original 6, which was just an opaque color.
Right.
But eventually, that BFR sort of it morphed through the years, and when we were celebrating the 10th anniversary of me being in the Ernie Ball Music Man family, we came out with the JPX.
2011, I guess.
Yeah.
Brilliant mathematician there.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, I have a degree in it, you can tell, can't you? Yeah.
It was a JPX, X for 10, and we put the X up here. And so that guitar, to celebrate that 10th year, we did like a chambered body and
that's right.
this really
I remember
cool purple.
Yeah.
Again, experimenting because I had played, I don't want to get the name wrong, maybe it was an Axis or something that had like or it might have been an anniversary guitar, like a 25th anniversary. It had like a chambered thing.
Right.
Like, this is awesome. Let's try it in mine. So we did that, and we started sort of the series of naming, of celebrating the years.
Gotcha.
So it came 10, 11, 12,
No,
13.
now it makes sense. I was going to ask you about that. Now I understand. So
right.
Because it seemed random, now it's not.
It's not random. It started with the 10, and then we were like, what? Anytime we'd have these, Sterling and I would have these great conversations, and, well, we should try this. And we were like, we should make that the 11. And then we did that continuously. And we went all the way up. We skipped the 14 because that's when the Majesty came out.
Right.
But the 15 was the very last one we did. And I would say the 15 is kind of like the culmination of everything.
Right.
As far as the bolt-on style, this body style, and everything else.
Gotcha.
All right.
Gotcha.
But it started with the BFR. And somewhere in there as well, which isn't talked about too much, is the baritone version. So I'm trying to think of the year, but I was kind of writing all this music that was tuned down to A, tuned down to B flat, and I needed the extended scale.
Right.
And the baritone guitar is amazing. The BFR baritone is really, really cool looking.
Do you have one on the road right now, or?
I don't. I'm not playing any of the songs that require that, but man, what a great sounding guitar. When it first came out, like Sterling would do, just tune it to like regular guitar tuning, but everything was down an octave. So it sounded like a bass.
Good God.
But it had regular guitar tuning, so you can kind of shred on it. It sounded like a bass. What I did was tune the guitar similarly, but just take the whole tuning down below that. So I was able to get a low, what did I tune it down to? I guess I was able to get a low A string.
That's pretty low.
C, yeah. So it was really cool. Anyway, that was
and
feature.
This, obviously a different fretboard on this.
Yeah. Now, I know we're kind of skipping around, but a couple of things to point out. Some of the changes, as you can see, now this is a 15, right? So 15 years after the first guitar, you notice what hasn't changed.
Yeah, that remains
right. So
the
all
same.
those things we talked about, the two pickups, everything has been the same. Some of the ways that we've experimented with are with a little bit of body design changes, wood changes, and fret changes. And when I say wood, that also applies to the neck and fretboard.
Right.
So, and this is the first guitar that we did a maple fretboard.
Right.
Something I always use dark colored fretboard. So
ebony or rosewood.
Yeah,
right?
ebony or rosewood. And when they introduced me to the whole roasted, maple thing,
and it looks gorgeous.
So really cool. I was blown away by that. I'm like, oh my God, that looks amazing. So so the 15 has this roasted.
That's really nice.
Maple neck and fretboard.
Did you notice a sonic difference that gave you?
That's a good question.
Did it make it brighter, like some will claim?
Probably. That's like one of those funny.
Yeah, it's hard
It's one of those funny areas where, like, I'm so in tune with certain things, having to do with the feel of the guitar and when I'm tweaking my amp and everything.
Right.
I'm so like stupidly, in tune with it. And then things like when we change fretboard material, it's like I don't even notice for some reason.
Gotcha.
I don't know why. It just doesn't register in my brain.
Gotcha.
So probably scientifically it's brighter, but it doesn't really register to me.
It's all part of the overall equation.
It is.
You probably dial the amp slightly different, so you can.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, to me, it's more of an aesthetic. It's like what it looks like as I'm
Right.
playing it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's more about that. If you told me this was made out of, koa or something, it wouldn't really make too much of a difference to me.
Gotcha.
It's more like what it looks like.
And the radius on this is...
All right, so we moved away from the 15-inch radius to a 17-inch radius. Again, out of, okay, I'm playing these 15s. I used to play 17-inch radius. Wonder what that would feel like again on one of these guitars. And so we made that change at some point. In fact, we experimented with radiuses a lot.
Gotcha.
We had a lot of different ones, which is so much fun and amazing that Sterling and his family kind of allow me to make those.
Entertain that.
Yeah, to entertain that. Like, anybody else would be like, no, I don't think so. But they have all
Pick
these.
a number.
Yeah, it's like they have, because they keep the guitars all in the line. I've been in the factory. They have to, do all these different techniques to change the fretboard radiuses and put the frets in and everything. They're all individual. It's not just one manufacturing method.
Gotcha.
So the 17 is something I settled upon that I really love. In fact, and we could talk about the 11. That one has a 20-inch.
Right, yeah.
Which was a whole
even none more flat.
Yeah, none more flat. That was another experiment that I'll talk about. But we also talked about frets. We also experimented with frets. And this was something that Dudley and I, and then eventually, as I was there longer, Drew Montel, who is one of the younger engineers that ended up designing the Majesty. But we talk about this a lot: fret size, fret material, and we'd experiment. And they'd send me guitars with different things. At one point, we had this kind of, it was like a goldish material that was like it was harder than the regular fret material.
Really?
Yeah, and it was kind of good, but it was softer than the stainless steel. And you know, we would try different like heights, and I was just trying to get the ultimate feel again to make the guitar disappear.
Right.
And eventually, I was kind of resistant to it, but we ended up with stainless steel frets.
Why were you resistant?
Because for some reason, when I first tried them, I had a weird feeling like that they felt too hard.
Oh, okay.
You know, maybe my calluses were soft that day or something. But I was like, oh man! But then we went back to it after we did all this experimentation. We put them on, and I was like, these feel great. I mean, the strings just like glide with effortlessly across the frets.
And they're the medium jumbo, aren't they?
The medium jumbo, right?
Yeah.
They're not too high. I like the frets to be, you know, somewhat wide.
Right.
But I guess what I'm looking for, as far as the left-hand feel, is a lot of glide. So just that the guitar is easy to play. You can vibrato and bend without any resistance. It's really smooth, and the stainless steels look beautiful. That's another one of those aesthetic things. They just have this great shine to them.
And you're always 24 frets, aren't you?
Always 24 frets. That's another thing we tried.
Right.
We tried doing a 22. I'm like, I'm going to try it. We tried doing a 22. I think it was the first time we did a neck through experiment.
Oh, okay.
Before the Majesty. Like, oh, we tried 22 frets and like lower output pickups, and I'm going to love it. It's like, I hate this. Like, I don't do that, you know?
How do you really feel? No.
Yeah. So we were like, no, you know, let's do what I do. So they're always 24 frets. And now, once we settled on that fret size and the fret material, which took, you know, many years to kind of get to, then we ended up retrofit, you know, featuring all the past guitars with the same frets.
And you did the same, I believe, with the pickups as well once you became...
We did, although there are 3 pickup sets.
Right. Can you explain?
I can explain.
Because
Okay.
I'll mess it up, so...
I can explain. Okay, so the ones that are in here, in the 15, these are the Illuminator pickups.
Right.
Funny story about that.
Go on.
And I said it correctly. When the pickups came out, they were based off of a Dream Theater song on the album that was coming out called Illumination Theory. We were thinking of a name, and I thought Illuminator pickups would be really cool. So Larry DiMarzio came down to the studio with his film team. We did this whole thing about the pickups, and I could not say Illuminator for the life of me. I stumbled upon it. Was like so embarrassing. I couldn't even say the name of the pickup. You try to say it 3 times quickly.
Did you eventually get it? You must have.
I eventually got one.
Or was it cut and paste? Did they have to?
It was a little cut and paste. If you watch it, it's a little awkward. But so
take that and cut it everywhere. Yeah, paste
exactly.
that everywhere. That's funny.
It's like this weird Illuminator. Anyway,
okay, so that's set 1.
So the 15 has an illuminator in the bridge and the neck.
Are they slightly different, obviously?
They are.
Right.
As far as what the slight difference is, that would be a Steve Blucher question.
That would be a question for Steve.
Right, but again, you know, if I can go back for a second, you know, when we did the original pickups in the first guitar,
right,
that they were only available in the model. They weren't available for sale outside of that.
Yeah.
When we decided to make a change to them and make them available outside the guitar, that's when we came up with my first set of signature DiMarzio pickups, which is the Crunch Lab,
right,
which is the one you see with the rail on it.
Right.
That's in the bridge, and the Liquefier, which is in the neck.
And the rail's always nearer the neck, isn't it? Or
yes.
You've never rotated the other way?
No, there's some way it's supposed to be, and
Right.
it's one of those things like, which way is it supposed to be?
Yeah, rail closest.
Steve
to the neck,
Blucher thing. Yeah, and so in the idea, in talking to Steve, you know, as I went from just basswood only to more complicated guitar construction, was we wanted to make the guitar, you know, as Steve would say, tighter and brighter.
Right.
You know, have the low end be like really, really stop on a dime, tight, especially through the boogies, and some nice brightness and clarity.
But your bright is still warm though. That's what I
Right.
like about the pickups. Is
Right.
that it's not like a pickaxe to the head.
And that was something we again talked about all the time. Is that I couldn't stand when I'd see a guitar player play and they'd play a high note and my eyebrows would be sheared off. So we always wanted it to be the higher strings to still have some weight to them,
Right.
but have clarity as well.
Yeah, so still keep the breadth as well, because a lot of those shrill pickups get very thin as well.
Yeah, thin is not good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can attest to
Well,
that.
depends on what you're referring
Yeah,
to.
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, but joking aside, but your
Yeah.
pickups are also, what's the technical word? Loud.
Yes, they
They're
are
not-
loud.
They're not quiet.
They're not quiet. They're loud pickups for sure. So it might take somebody getting used to that. People say when they pick up the guitars, they're like, man, these guitars are so alive. They're just like, it's like a beast you have to tame. But that's what I love about it. They have so much. They're really bold. They just kind of stand out.
But they're still, but the articulation remains.
Articulation
that's what I do
remains,
like about them.
which is really important. Again, based on my style and how I play, I do a lot of kind of articulate things
Right.
within Dream Theater and my own stuff. So I need that. I can't have a mushy sounding guitar.
Especially when you play the license chord, you got to hear each.
You got to hear
each
all the
note.
notes. Yeah, and in
otherwise
fact,
it fades.
we talked about that too. When you play those big chords, it's like you want to be able to hear the separated notes.
Yeah.
Part of that is the charm of the boogie of the C plus.
Right.
The whole Mark lineage, but part of that is the pickups as well.
Right. Yeah. It's the ingredients in your recipe, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Exactly. All these things come into play. So yeah, I'm trying to think of what else about the 15 is actually it's not a basswood guitar. This is a mahogany guitar.
Okay.
It has it's African mahogany and then there's a maple top.
Gotcha.
So instead of just having the tone block, it's the whole guitar is mahogany.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it has more weight to it, and yeah.
So by digital magic, guitar number 3. Here we go. Take it away, John.
All right. So continuing with the once we did the JPX
Right.
10, that's when we started to do the what would you call it, like anniversary series or something.
Yeah, the numbering.
Right, the
system.
numbering. So we came out with the 11, 12, 13, and eventually the 15. So I would say the 11, 12, and 13 kind of covered this period where we stepped away from the BFR look. In other words, the translucent
Right.
finishes where you saw the maple top, and we did more like single solid colors.
Right.
Less option on color, kind of like this is the guitar.
Right.
The 13 was an incredible silver sparkle.
Right.
And I believe the 12 was this amazing red. But the 11 started with also not only doing that more opaque finish, this beautiful sparkle that's like a black with a little bit of blue or purple in it. It's like
Depending on the light. Yeah, I like the way it
unbelievable
moves
looking.
with the light.
Love the color on this. This is where we changed the wood. So another one of those, I wonder what it would sound like
With
alder. And so it's alder with a maple top and mahogany neck.
you're back
And
to ebony on the finger.
ebony on the fingerboard. I'm trying to think if this might have been the first time we did the ebony on the fingerboard. I don't remember what the X was,
Right.
but it might have been. So that was something that, again, like talking about aesthetics and the way that the guitar looks when you're playing with it. I love this idea of like just this black
Yeah, none
guitar,
more.
black
With
fretboard.
the chrome hardware. Those
Chrome
kind of-
hardware,
yeah.
just really, really sharp looking, really cool. And then the other thing that went into the experimentation on this guitar, and it's so cool as I'm sitting here playing it, is I was always fascinated by when you played a classical guitar, and you can, as an electric player, it feels a little weird because there's nylon strings, but you can almost do things easier left hand wise because the neck radius was so flat.
Right.
There's like no resistance. And so I wanted to see what it would feel like with a 20-inch radius.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so this has a really flat radius. And I think when we originally did this, we might have even done the jumbo frets on it
Right.
as well. So the idea was to make this like super gliding neck,
Gotcha.
20-inch radius jumbo frets, black, really easy to play, and just like real badass looking. And again, so you can see by the rail, this has the Sonic Ecstasy and the liquid. I'm sorry, not the Crunch Lab.
Yeah,
and the
Crunch Lab
Liquefier.
and
Yeah.
Liquefier, yeah.
And again, same control layout, and the body shape and style is similar to. You'll see it's similar to the 15. So once we
Gotcha.
got that shape, we stuck with that shape.
That's a nice touch too. The machine head, the perloids. This thing here.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, another just change the look a little
Yeah.
bit. Absolutely.
I only just noticed it because it's right in my face. but
Yeah, there you go.
but it's cool.
But it's just the locking tuners,
Right.
and the same
Piezo.
same whammy bar system, same piezo system. So the guitars are consistent, going from one to the next. When you pick them up, they have a similar feel to it.
Which is important.
Yeah, it is important. And on the back on these guitars, the piezo system there's little controls here where you can adjust the tone, which is great. You can do that right on the spot. So
and silly things like the easy access battery compartments as well. That's, little things make a difference.
It does make a difference,
especially in the heat of the moment.
Yeah, where you don't have to sit there with a screwdriver
and then lose the screws.
Yeah, perfect. So this is like a very, I don't know, it's just a real stealthy kind of like badass machine.
Well, it goes back to your racing car kind of analogy.
It really does. That's a great analogy, the whole racing car thing. So, yeah, love the 11. It's a really, really cool guitar. So a major change came about when we decided to build a neck-through version, because until the Majesty and all of the anniversary numbered series and the first guitar and the BFRs are all bolt-on versions. So we talked about doing a neck-through. This is when Drew Montel got really involved and started to take the lead engineer-wise along with Dudley. And the shape of the guitar, everything we wanted to be different and unique. So obviously it followed through with the neck through.
Yep.
So that alone is just an unbelievable feature, to not have a bolt neck joint there.
What instigated that decision? Once again, was it just one of those let's see what this is like kind of things?
Once again, we've been building guitars that are beautiful, amazing, sound incredible. What would a neck through version be? It's a conversation that happened a while back, but it took some time to finally get there. It's a whole different kind of mindset to do the neck through. No pun intended, Yeah, exactly. So as you can see, the body style drastically changed from the 15 style and the BFR style. We wanted to do something that went further in the direction of get the guitar out of the way. Yeah. You don't think about it. So it's super light. That's one of the cool things, like 6 pounds or something.
So what's the bodywood?
It's the same combination. So this is a neck through mahogany.
Right. And
neck through, the wings are basswood.
Gotcha.
And the top, which you can't see too much on the black version, but it's maple.
Okay.
And I want to talk about that and some of the features of the way the guitar looks, because I've always been into the way that cars are designed, the way the automobile industry combines different materials, hardwoods with carbon fiber, with chrome, and the paint and things that they use are unbelievable. Even on the very first guitar, we did this color change paint that's called Mystic Dream.
Right.
That depends on how you look at it. Depending on how you look at it, it's black or it's purple or it's green. That was from a car that I saw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So the inspiration for the look of the Majesty, before I go further into the features, came from a BMW that I saw that had this, it was actually white. It was like a white frozen paint. So it has this kind of pearlescent look to it. It's not a high gloss paint. So it's called frozen paint. Carbon fiber top, black chrome wheels, just looked like really ridiculous.
Futuristic almost.
Futuristic, exactly. Yeah. And really looked like you wanted to get in that car and drive it. I wanted the guitar to look like you want to pick that up and play it. So we did the frozen paint thing. That wasn't a problem. Getting the top to look like carbon fiber was something that to this day blows my mind.
Because it does have that look.
Yeah, if you look at it right up close to it, it looks like carbon fiber. So we talked about, well, should we use real carbon fiber? Should we do some kind of stick-on, or that would be cheesy, or some wrap or something? And so Drew worked out a way to laser etch the carbon fiber pattern into maple, sand it and stain it.
Get out.
Yeah, it's actually maple.
It's laser etched into the wood.
It's insane.
And I couldn't say laser, just like the pickup name.
Laser.
Yeah, laser.
Yeah.
Cut that in later. Carry on.
Right. So, that just blows my mind that
That's
they were able to
amazing.
do that. It's insane.
What's
right?
that called? Attention to detail.
Yes, exactly. And it's also, it's like not stopping until you,
Yeah.
like not saying, no, we can't do that. It's like they say, yes, we'll find a way to do that. Or, look at all the different options. And that's what makes them such a great,
Yeah, it's not. There's
company.
not that good enough isn't an option
no,
there,
not at all.
obviously,
Exactly.
because that's verging on lunacy in the best way
It's
possible.
total lunacy, and I love it.
It's great.
So, again, just to point out, you notice that nothing changed here,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Same thing.
Although the switch,
The switch is actually angled slightly different.
yeah,
You are
and also
right.
the cutting, the way that they look like they're from a car as well. The switches.
Yes, exactly. So they're, how would you say it? They're like recessed.
Yeah, they're recessed.
So
Yeah, they're
so
cool.
we got rid of like any sort of
Very
rings.
ergonomic.
Very ergonomic. So even smoother
Right.
than before. And you're right. The angle here is slightly
It looks.
changed.
The whole thing has an aerodynamicness to it,
It does,
which is
yeah.
in keeping with your racing.
Well, the
car.
original thing, when I talked to Sterling and I drew this picture, I wanted to call the guitar the Stallion. It's like, okay, I'm Italian, I'll call it the Stallion.
Yeah, you can do that.
And he was
yeah.
cracking, and it was like, grace, beauty, and power. I wanted to look like a running horse.
Right. Okay.
And I remember looking at all these pictures of horse. I even found horse guitars, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cheesy. But the whole idea of that, whether you call it an automobile, race car or something, is that it kind of exudes like power, speed,
Yeah, built for-
playability, drivability. Yeah, performance-based.
Performance-based build.
Yeah.
Yeah, built for power and performance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the whole look, the body design look. And a couple of things to point out that I think are really cool. Again, so we kept the same neck radius, fretboard radius, ebony fretboard, stainless steel frets,
Right.
all that stuff. But did the angled headstock.
Right.
And we talked about that
Yeah.
before, to give the guitar better stability, sustain, things like
Right.
that. I think it just adds to the look of as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I like looking at that.
Yeah, gotcha.
It just makes it just even that much
Right.
cooler. But here's really something cool that kind of freaked people out.
Now, is the body slightly smaller, or is that just an optical illusion?
It probably is like ever so slightly, but part of that is an optical illusion
of
because
the
it doesn't
curvature.
feel.
Right.
Yeah, so we'll have to measure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it's just like the curves of the guitar.
Right,
make it
yeah.
Like that. So I wanted to get everything even smoother. All the edges have even more surface on the bridge. So you notice we have a larger
Yeah.
pickup cover. Again, round. It's very Batman,
Yeah, it is.
right? Really rounded edges. Everything. When you play this guitar, it just feels like it's like butter. But here's something that I thought was really interesting. Another Sterling idea.
Okay.
Just like the cutout here. So we talked about, wanting to get higher access to the fret. So when you're playing some crazy thing up here, your hand didn't knock against the lower horn. So we did this kind of shorter horn here. But Sterling brought up the idea is when you're going up the neck, normally the guitar will kind of cut in around here. Mm-hmm. So what happens to your thumb? It hits that area. And he said, well, what if we took that wood away? And this way you can go all the way up.
Oh, wow. Your
There.
thumb goes up to pretty much
It goes all the way up.
Up to
Yeah.
22nd, 23rd. Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So at first glance, it kind of like looks like, wow, this top horn is really like longer than
Yeah.
normal, but it's actually not.
It's the cutaway.
It's the cutaway.
Yeah.
And so it's not cutting in here.
Gotcha.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it made for this like even cooler looking, design element that kind of again has this flow when you look at it, and I thought that was really ingenious and really cool. So that's the Majesty, and we also added in, and I'm trying to think if it started with the Majesty. I think it did. But we started putting a preamp, an active system into the guitar.
And how much boost does the preamp give?
Okay,
is
so-
it variable or?
Yeah, it is variable. So it's up to 20 dB boost.
Well, that's not much.
Yeah, I know, it's insane.
20 dBs.
You can control the boost level here.
Cool.
And the piezo EQ here.
Gotcha.
But what's really cool, so this guitar got even more like performance based. They might have done it at first, maybe with the Luke model, I think.
Right.
Where he wanted like a clean boost on the guitar. So it's when you hit the volume control, it pops up, letting you know.
That's really smart.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not like where you have to like reach and pull.
Yeah, that's
hard
annoying.
to do. It's
Yeah,
annoying.
And you
Yeah.
end up turning the volume.
You do.
Yeah.
So this, you just kind of give it a punch. It's really easy to do when you're playing. Do that. So it's like stepping on a clean boost up to 20 dB.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
And to switch it off, you just bat it down again?
Just back it, yeah, that's all it is. There's also the same kind of thing on the tone control, which does a coil tap. Here.
And is it on both pickups or just...
It's actually just only when you're in the middle position.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so you kind of get that more crystally clean thingy.
So is it just doing the... Is it just the two middle ones?
I think it's the two middle ones.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then it's the piezo volume. And as I'm looking at the guitar, cool, another great Ernie Ball Music Man feature, the truss rod adjustments right there.
Yeah, so you don't have to take
off
Yeah.
anything. You know, I'll do it mid-show, like during a song. I'll walk back to my tech, and I'll give the sign, like, and he'll just like, just puts a little wrench in there, whatever, screwdriver. It's just a hole, so you can put screwdriver, Allen wrench, whatever, and just tweak it down. Yeah, and that's really the only adjustment you need on the instrument as far as like action.
Right.
Assuming the bridge is in the right position.
It's amazing what even an eighth of a tone can do sometimes. It really is.
It makes it really, really, really playable. And so, you know, what's cool about the preamp is that I still play using a cable.
Right.
And we play in larger stages. I can have a 50-foot cable, and I don't lose any tone.
Right.
Because of the buffered out. So, really great feature. Yeah.
So literally, this is a cliche, but every one of your axes has a story.
They all have a story.
Quite compelling, actually.
Yeah, they all have a story. And I'll show you where the Majesty story is at in our next segment.
Cool.
All right.
So there's your cue.
So this is the JP16. And the idea behind this guitar primarily was none of my guitars have a Floyd Rose.
Right.
At some point, it was something that I enjoyed. You know, when I was younger, growing up, I had guitars that had that a Floyd Rose. I played a guitar with a Floyd for like 10 years or so. Let's try it, you know. And so that's the main feature of the 16. We thought to make it to kind of bring it back a little bit to the original guitar, we'd add in the little notch there. So the JP6 and the 16 are the only ones that have that feature.
Right.
This is the only guitar that has a Floyd Rose. Everything else is the same. No piezo system on this guitar.
I was going to say, yeah.
Right,
No
so we're missing the piezo knob and the piezo control here. But
the curve remains the same.
Curve remains the same. Isn't that Zeppelin?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Locking nut.
Right.
Because we have the Floyd. So the neck on this guitar has a roasted maple neck, and then has this sort of smoky ebony look. So it almost looks like rosewood, but it's actually ebony.
It has almost a relic vibe to it.
It does have a relic vibe to it, yeah. And for some reason, this guitar is just really like easy to play.
Yeah, buttery.
There's something about it, very buttery, very cool. And this was the guitar I was telling you earlier talking to Steve Blucher about pickups. So here we have a basswood guitar, again, Floyd Rose. Haven't used that in a long time.
Right.
Talked to Steve. What should we do differently than we've done with the first two and the Illuminator? And he thought about it. Thought about the wood, the Floyd. We were playing Radio City Music Hall. Came to the show. Said, I worked on these pickups. I picked it up, plugged it in, and it was like perfect.
And what's the difference? And what are these ones?
So, you know, it's that tighter and brighter thing, but because the Floyd thing is maybe a little brighter than the normal pickup, we kind of dialed back the high end on the higher strings.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's part of it. So I fell in love with them so much, and we called them Sonic Ecstasy pickups, because I thought that was a great name for it, that I ended up carrying those over to the newer Majesty.
Yeah, because they're available now as a separate entity, aren't they?
Right. Great. So the Majesty Monarchy series has the Sonic Ecstasy pickup. So it's kind of like, you know, the evolution of the pickups as well.
Cool.
As the guitar.
And he literally turned up and he got it right first time.
Got it right first time.
That Blucher
Crazy.
guy. Yeah. Only him.
Only him.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the 16. So very unique in again, that it's the only one with a Floyd. Yeah. And we started with the Sonic Ecstasies. And this also has the boost as well.
Cool.
So all those cool features.
Does it have the coil taps as well?
It does.
Cool.
Right, if I can, here we go. Yeah. There you go.
Tap pull.
Yeah, it takes me, like, I have to get used to the bar is different than the other ones, right? Tighten it right there. Yeah, but it does all that fun stuff.
Very cool.
Cool.
And last but by no means least.
Yes. So once the Majesty debuted, we started kind of doing different collections based on the same, body style and features and everything,
Right.
but just changing the way the guitar looked and kind of naming them by collection. So one of the ones, Sterling had this great idea to do the Artisan series. And the idea was to do more sophisticated violin finish looking guitars. So, more like stained sort of
Right.
wood, gold.
That is quite striking. Actually.
Yeah,
Finish.
this is actually, this is the Monarchy. So I'm leading up to
Right.
that. So the Artisans were, they're all kind of like the stained wood
Gotcha.
looking thing, gold hardware, really rich
Right.
looking. And that was the Artisan series. And we did the Precious Metal series. So we did these finishes that were gold, silver, copper, really awesome,
Right.
beautiful looking. The latest series that we have, which is the latest Majesty, is called the Monarchy series.
Mm-hmm.
So partly because, the theme on the last Dream Theater album, the latest one called The Astonishing, the storyline kind of went into that empirical sort of mood and storyline and characters. So I was thinking of like really regal finishes, and that's where the Monarchy name came. And so we wanted to make the guitar reflect that.
Gotcha.
And so the idea was this. Basically, I loved the way that the BFRs had that high gloss finish, where you can see the wood and everything. And I had made the request to do that on the Majesty. The challenge being that the body shape, to buff this out, I guess, it's such a challenge.
Sure.
But once again, they didn't say no and figured it out eventually. So we were able to make all the guitars in the Monarchy series have this high gloss finish. Went away from the carbon fiber design and did more where you can see the quilt of the maple. Neck mahogany, Honduran mahogany neck through, and an African mahogany body. Same layout of controls.
Yep.
We went with a matte black finish on the whammy, and
Piezo's back again.
yeah,
obviously.
Piezo's back again. Still has the
boost
20
and the
dB
coil tap.
boost, the coil tap, the recessed
Yep.
controls, but you're going to see these really rich
Yeah.
colors. So this is Majestic Purple. We did Black Knight with a K.
Right.
Royal Red and Imperial Blue. So the names kind of reflect these really like vibrant looking guitars. And what I thought was ingenious was that if you turn the guitar around, that gloss finish changes to a satin finish.
Oh, I didn't notice that before.
So when you put
This is cool too.
yeah, I know, just to do that
Just
little
this
cover
tiny
there.
little, just attention to detail.
Yeah, you're like, how did they do that? But when you turn the guitar around, so the satin finish feels really great against your clothes and this against your hand. So
Right.
there's no sort of stickiness.
And you have the gun oil wax thing on a lot of the necks, don't you?
Yeah, and it depends. Like like on a neck like this with the roasted maple, it has that. The more finished necks, like on the 11, or it has more of a painted neck.
Right.
But I love this satin finish.
Yeah.
It's just beautiful. And these guitars have the Sonic Ecstasy pickups in them, and all the other features that led up to this point. And I guess beyond that, the only thing I would say is that they started doing really specialty limited versions of the Majesty and other guitars in the line, but that fall into the BFR category.
Gotcha.
So we did a very special limited Nomak edition, which is based off of a character or sort of creature from the Astonishing album.
Right.
That was this insane guitar that Drew built. I can't even begin to explain it. You got to show pictures.
Gotcha.
But it had real jewels and lit up and
Really?
yeah. It's
We got to show one of those.
absolutely
Wow.
ridiculous looking. Then they did a purple sparkle that had a neck binding. The latest one is called the Steakhouse Majesty, that my wife named because when I showed it to her, she said, "It's like a steakhouse. It's like a man's guitar, It's like cigars, beards, and steak."
That's great.
But it has a carbon black BMW color, spalted maple top, which is stained, cream pickups, cream binding. Just gorgeous.
Oh, I got to see that.
Yeah, you got to see that one. So that's kind of where the Majesty and my line is sort of going, where we do these limited editions. But our design has held.
Anyway, based on your lineage, like nearly, 18 years now, pretty much, 2001 to 2018, I imagine yourself, Sterling, Steve, the rest of the gang are working on something now. The question is, can you tell us, or will you have to kill me?
Right. Well, you're safe for today.
Okay.
Yeah, you're safe for today. Basically, where we're at now is that the Monarchy line is the latest and greatest, and we're going to continue to feature that. And other than the BFR versions like the Steakhouse or things like that, that's where we're at right now. So there's nothing this year new that will come out as far as changing any features or anything mechanical with the guitar or anything like that. They're kind of just aesthetic changes limited to limited edition runs of the BFR versions. Yeah.
But I would imagine, you don't have to be Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Something will happen next year, folks, so stay tuned to this channel. John,
Absolutely.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick.
Appreciate it.
Awesome. Cool.